Hello, everybody. It's me. It's Terry. How are you? Welcome to a new week, a warm week in July. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you are ready for the 4th. Happy 4th of July coming up this Friday. And I thought I'd get that right out of the way and wish you a happy 4th of July. I'm Terry Hardin, Walt Disney's legendary Imagineer, pop icon, and if you want to know more, feel free to Google Terry Hardin or look me up on social media. This is my Instagram. Lots to see. Like I said, just Google Terry Hardin and all will be revealed to you. I've done Ghostbusters, Men in Black, worked with people like Michael Jackson and Whoopi Goldberg, etc. Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, because I did Ghostbusters, and just the experiences were beautiful, lovely. And if you have any questions, you can ask in the comments. But today I wanted to talk about something that that you may or may not be preparing for. And that is Disneyland's birthday. That's right. Disneyland is about to celebrate its 70th. That's right, 70. Whew, 70th birthday. And that will be July 17th. For those of you who are not, very familiar with Disney and Disneyland, they are out there. It's a very, very special time for all of us. Myself, particularly, I have not missed many of the birthdays. I'm always going to Disneyland to celebrate the birthday, and you can find me in and around Coke Corner. So if you're going to be at the birthday, come by and say hello to myself and Terry's Tribe, which will also be there in mass, a lot of us. And so I'm going to give you the opportunity, patreon.com/Terry Hardin, if you want to hear me live, talk to me live. We do Zooms every week. That's part of your benefit for just $5 a month every week, unless I'm out and about and can't get Wi-Fi. That happens. Then I talk to you live, and we talk about all kinds of things, not just Disney. We talk about everything. And if you have something you think could bring to the table of the Patreon page, think about that $5 a month, and please come and join us. Your voice needs to be heard. It's a great group of people. It makes you feel good. It's more a safe spot to relax and come in from the cold. So what does that mean? Out here in life right now, the world is chaotic, isn't it? I believe people are wound way too tight, and that makes you, as a human being, possibly do things that you wouldn't normally do when you're more in a comfortable situation. But if you're agitated, feel like you're being pushed up against a wall, scared to death, etc., this is the place, Terry's Tribe, patreon.com/Terry Hardin, where you can come and relax, feel safe. That's what that page is for, is to feel safe. And it's also private. So because it's private, it means that you can ask questions that you are curious about, whether it's open questions or it's something about myself or it's something you've been, struggling with. For example, if you've been in a situation where maybe you see someone and you go to wave at them, but then they turn away and act like they don't know you, and you're kind of like, what's that about? I just want to point out that sometimes it's not about you. Sometimes it is about you, but a lot of times it might not be about you. There can be all kinds of circumstances, especially now, especially during this crazy time that we are living in, especially in the United States. So as a result, patreon.com is a safe place for you to speak and air your views. It is not a place to get into political arguments or to be unkind to each other. It is a place to, if you're going to debate, and I say I don't like it to be about politics or religion or any of that stuff where people are very dogmatic. You cannot convince a Catholic that Judaism is better as a whole. You cannot convince Judaism that Catholic is better. Their religion is their religion, and that's the way they believe. And so to change them, you can go down that road if you think you want to do it, but you're going to find that most of the time it's a great big wall. And there are other issues in the world today where it's the same. If you believe one way and they believe another, sometimes it's impossible to convince them. But if you like those kind of debates, there are plenty of really strong channels where you can have a good, strong debate for whatever your stand is. And, but it's not on my Patreon page. And I remember some of the tribe said, I don't know if I can be comfortable enough. I'm being frustrated about the world and everything. And believe me, I get it. Me too. But this is a place for you to kind of think about something else, because it's all over everywhere. Everything that's happening is in your face, in your face, in your face. And so this is a way for you to just take a breath. And it's that minute of meditation type stuff. We talk about other stuff. So if you want to be a part of the tribe, check it out. $5 a month. I don't lock you into anything. It is a membership site. I bring to the table me, and I would like to be painting and sculpting. So this brings me to the table because I really, really love this group. And your $5 helps me to continue what I'm doing. So consider it. Okay? That's all I'm going to say, because it's a great group of people and they're all going to be at the party. So it's your opportunity to go to Disneyland's birthday and see what they're about. They're wonderful, a lot of fun, and very welcoming. Okay? All right. But what I'm talking about today will be Disney centric, because you may or may not have heard that they're going to be doing, they have done, let me put it that way, an audio animatronic figure of Walt Disney. And in the Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln section is where Walt Disney's audio animatronic will appear. And rumor has it, it will have its premiere showing, the official opening, on the birthday, which is July what? July 17th. It's probably going to be a zoo trying to get in, and many hope that there is a virtual queue. But the fact is, it will be debuting that day. Rumor. Nobody has said anything official yet, to my knowledge. So let me just say it's rumored to open. And if that's something you want to check out, could be a good day. You could get the trifecta there. Disneyland's birthday, fun, fun, fun. And to check out this Disney audio animatronic. Now, you may have also heard, if you've heard or not, that many family members of Walt Disney are not thrilled about this being in the park. And they campaigned and begged and talked to Disney and asked them, please don't do it. Please don't do it. Please don't do it. And I feel for them, because I have a well-known relative as well. And I tried to imagine my relative standing up there as an audio animatronic, and it was a little creepy to me. Okay, it was a lot creepy to me. So I understand what the family is saying. On the other hand, I want to go see it. I want to go see this presentation with the audio animatronic figure. And here's why. It's like voting. Okay? If you're going to vote, if you're going to complain about our country, you got to vote, guys. You got to vote. I personally, and this is the little drop of political against my rule, but it's very important. You got to vote. For the right to complain, you got to vote. For the right to diss a movie, you got to go see it. Okay? If you don't like the movie, you don't think, and you can say, like for me, I went and saw, I'm not a fan of live action films. Let's use this case in point. Don't like them. And I saw enough to tell me I wasn't going to like them. All right? So I don't like them. This is not an affront to you if you love them. This also doesn't pertain to Lilo and Stitch, because I went and saw that one. I liked that one. But my point is, once you see the movie and you give the movie a chance, whether it's streaming, someone else takes you to the movie and pays for it, whatever, once you've seen it, you can say, not for me. Okay, not for me. Now, you can also say when you see the previews, it doesn't look like something that I would like. But you cannot say it's a bad movie until you've seen it. You cannot say, unless you're the family, all right? Now, the family of Walt Disney, again, they have a right to say, I don't want to see grandpa. I don't want to see my dad. I don't want to see my uncle. I don't want to see fill in the blank Disney relative here, him up there as an audio animatronic. I just don't want to see it. This is their right, okay? Completely their right, and I feel for them. But if I'm going to be here and tell you whether I think it's good, it's a good figure or a bad figure, I can't do it sitting here telling you without seeing it. I mean, I just don't think that's right. I don't think that's ethical, okay, to badmouth something you haven't seen based on what you've heard. Yes? You never know if what you've heard is real. And maybe there were some circumstances when certain people saw it and they said what they said about certain situations that you or may not agree with, okay? So one of the things I think would be great is that, let's say the Walt Disney figure is spectacular, which is what I'm hoping for. Doesn't mean that the family will still like it, but just in general to the people. Here's one thing I like about the idea, and I didn't think I liked anything about the idea, to be honest with you, but this is what I like about the idea. It puts Walt Disney back in Disneyland. And I don't mean the figure, I mean the name. If you are someone who has loved Walt Disney for as long as I have, and many of you much longer, much more passionate than Terry Hardin, because I like learning about Disneyland from all y'all. And I just think that that's the best way to learn about stuff. If I want to learn about why Snow White figurines are placed the way they're placed by the fountain, then it's really neat to hear someone tell me that story than to read it in a book or something. I like the books, but I love when somebody who's passionate tells me the story. And that's my blessing as an Imagineer, that I get a lot of those stories as well as being able to tell those stories. So I know Imagineering is a brilliant group of creators, not to pat myself on the back, but just to say that the Imagineers are the creme de la creme of artists. If you've ever tried to become one or attempted to become one, you know it's a very elite group. It just is. And so I would like to keep my confidence in the Imagineers. Imagineers have said, we worked hard. We didn't just blow it off and say to ourselves, Walt Disney figure. They really are working hard and have worked hard to do the best that they can possibly do. So as an Imagineer, I feel I can honor them and should honor them by at least going to check it out. This is my position. If it's not yours, feel free to post in the comments why it's not. But I have, through the years, been very irritated, as has many, let me say that again, as have many people that love Disneyland. Because Disneyland is not like any other park created by Disney. That includes Walt Disney World. Now, before you get up in my face, Walt Disney World, you are not the park where Walt walked. Because Walt passed away before the opening of Walt Disney World. Yes, he was there in the beginning and his vision was there in the beginning, but he never walked it. Disneyland is the only park where Walt walked. Disneyland is the only place where you can feel, taste, touch, smell Walt Disney's vision. Every step of Disneyland, and many people say, small park, don't see the attraction. Well, then you need to study more, guys, okay? If that's what you say after going to Disneyland, you need to study more. Because every step you take, from the time you ride the train through the gate and into the park, everywhere you step, Walt stepped. Everything you touch, Walt touched. Everything you see, everything you ride, everything you look at, with the exception of Galaxy's Edge. But I think Walt would have been okay with Galaxy's Edge. I just think he would have put it in California Adventure Park. But that's another story. Disneyland needs to realize that they don't need to try and be like all the other parks that Disney owns and has created. Disneyland doesn't have to be like them because Disney isn't like them. So let me ask you a question. And this goes to this figure. This is why this figure is important. Because I think this figure is important because when it gets to work, and the idea with Walt Disney is he's on so it's at the Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln building. So if you've been to Disneyland, you know where that building is, right up front, across from City Hall. And when you go in, Lincoln is there. But if you are an aficionado of Disneyland and you've studied, or even if you're me, you know that Lincoln didn't just come to life perfectly. He had his challenges because the Imagineers are testing at Imagineering, and then this is the first time, go time, and things can happen. That being said, I want you to also understand that the technology back in the day when Mr. Lincoln was introduced was a heck of a lot more archaic, a lot more practical, a lot more it's not like technology today. We have advanced so far with technology that you can barely keep up. I mean, can't you? I know I can't. So now you have all of this new technology that is going into this figure, I would imagine. And so I think it's got a really good fighting chance to come out of the gate strong. But just in case it doesn't, the Imagineers have created an escape area where if for any reason the Walt Disney figure doesn't function in the way that they want it to, it's on a turntable. So it will simply turn and come and go back to being Mr. Lincoln so that they can fine tune and create. And honestly, in the first couple of months, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do this to tweak it. Okay, to make sure it's going to be all that it can be. Okay. Pretty exciting. Kind of if you've ever seen Young Frankenstein, put the candle back situation. But it's pretty smart, isn't it? I think so. So the reason I think this would be great is because it puts Walt back into Walt Disney in the only park that Walt Disney still exists. My feeling is that Disneyland should, instead of trying to be like all the other parks, Disneyland should use this new technology to catch up with Walt's vision. Because back in the day, Walt was really a man who had a vision well before its time. He wanted to create things that his Imagineers had to invent stuff to make it work. And now in today's world, you can do like they've pretty much done with the Haunted Mansion. So when the Haunted Mansion opened, he wanted the Hatbox Ghost, but technology wasn't advanced enough to create the Hatbox Ghost. So the Hatbox Ghost was set on a shelf. This is what creators do. If it's not working now, it's not that it's over, but we're going to set it on this shelf and visit it later when technology catches up. Right? Maybe you're a creator out there. I think you are. And this is what you've done. I know I've done it, but we'll come back to me later. Back to Disney. So the Haunted Mansion now has the Hatbox Ghost in it, and for some time. The Bride was the same situation. Walt wanted the Bride, but again, technology, no matter what they did, the Bride just didn't come off the way Walt visioned it, and the team Walt Disney visioned it. Okay, so on the shelf, but now she's back. If you were to take some of the rides that Walt loved and Team Walt loved, you would be able to apply the one thing that sometimes makes me nuts is when Disney wants to rip something out that Walt had a part in, like they wanted to do with Mr. Toads and Alice in Wonderland for a while. Don't touch those. Now what they can do is they could take like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, keep the charm of it, but let technology make it run maybe a little more efficiently, maybe a little more interestingly, maybe there's some things in Mr. Toad's that couldn't happen because technology wasn't caught up with Walt yet. What about the Space Mountain ride? Or what about the Tiki Room? Right now, the Tiki Room is off limits. Could they be doing the same thing that they did with the Haunted Mansion? Is to take a look at these magnificent birds, which we love. We don't want them to change them. But what the technology that's making them come to life is from the 80s, as I understand. So what if they brought it into the future now that technology has caught up with Walt's vision? But you still have the Tiki Room. You still have Mr. Toad's. You still have Alice. Now, the changes in Alice, I'm not really that thrilled with. I kind of like the way it was before, but it's still there and it's still fun and it means a lot to me. I love that. Honestly, I love all the rides. And one of the things that Bob Gurr said, I went and saw his documentary yesterday, and he's a very good friend of mine, and I love the man to death, and he's so wonderful. He talked about the Matterhorn and said it's the worst roller coaster track he's ever experienced. And that is because they built the Matterhorn mountain first. Walt liked the shape of the Matterhorn mountain first. And so Bob had to come up with a track for the roller coaster that fit in the Matterhorn mountain. And then he said, make it 2. That's Walt, make it 2. So Bob talks about how, Bob talked in a Q&A about how challenging this is with one of the worst roller coaster tracks he's ever experienced in his life. He said, nowadays, and back then, here's the big thing. Back then, no computers. Everything was pencil and paper. And he said in the Q&A, Lord, I wished I had a computer back then. And I think Walt felt the same, except for maybe he didn't say, I wish I had a computer that did that back then, because he's not here with us. But Bob is. And Bob is one of the top designers of a lot of the things in the park, as you well know. So here he's even saying, if he could get at the computer and rework that Matterhorn so that it's a little more efficient, because that's the way you build roller coasters, is you use a computer to test the track, to make it safe, to feel what the right place you should be riding at. He talked a lot about it. It was fascinating. But that's what I think Disneyland should be. I think Disneyland should be the place that a parent can take their children and show them where Walt walked and what his vision is. So what does that mean in a nutshell? Advance within the Walt stuff. Like Mission to Mars. As a little kid, one of my favorite experiences was Mission to Mars, because I believed I was actually going to the moon, or Mars, depending on. Mission to the Moon when I was a kid. I also would love to see them bring the flying saucers back. Please, Bob, bring the flying saucers back. My favorite ride, and you've seen it. It used to be in Tomorrowland, and it's a little saucer that 2 people could ride, and it was like riding an air hockey puck. It was amazing. But the problem was, the challenge was, back in the day when I rode that, was when it went down big. You heard this amazing when you were at Disneyland, and the whole place shook. Right? That's because to operate those little flying saucers that all the people rode in was the size of a giant building. Because that's the size of computers back then. Building size. You've seen it in 1956, 1957, 1960 movies. With the reels going around. You know, cell phones as big as cereal boxes. You've seen it. You know what I'm talking about. So, now, if you revisit that ride, and I definitely would suggest Bob, if he's interested in doing it, bring back those amazing flying saucers, please, 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 please. Because now there are so many ways you can do it. A chip. There's technology I don't even know about because I'm not a computer savvy person. But I know that the phone now, our phones are so massively incredible. They could probably operate those little flying saucer ships. And for those of you who don't know, I was one of the first people to work on Talking Mickey Mouse. And when I was working on Talking Mickey Mouse close to 15, 20 years ago, I lose track of time. I just turned 68, so give me a break. Yeah, happy birthday to me. Woohoo. Anyway, I worked on Talking Mickey Mouse, and I had a big one system. It was not a big one system. It was a system that was kind of like the Jim Henson stuff. I worked a lot with Jim Henson. I still do. But I still am a part of Jim Henson. But, you know, work is, they don't put you in a big stable and say, okay, your turn. You're up. You're up. They just reach, when they have something, they'll call your phone number and say, you want to come and audition? And you say yes or no, right? But Henson is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that I was a puppeteer who did dinosaurs for 4 years plus Flintstones, and they're the animatronic where you program the heads and someone's in a suit and you work together to create them. If you've seen the Country Bears, I played Big Al and Trixie, and I was the puppeteer for the face articulation. While amazing suit performers, John Alexander and my friend Denise, were in Trixie, and John was in Big Al accordingly. But my point is that they found me and they asked me if I would come on board to help program the Mickey Mouse head for the first time. Once we did that, and Roy Disney Jr., bought it off, basically said, this is amazing. They flew us to Florida, the whole team, the builders and myself, and they put a prime Mickey Mouse person inside Mickey Mouse, and I hope I'm not upsetting anybody, but they put it inside the Mickey Mouse, and then this person then performed with me. We were a team, and we went through some of Mickey's dialogue, but the way to operate that Talking Mickey Mouse at the time was too large to actually get it to do anything. So if they were going to act on it 20 years ago, I would have had to been in the wings making the Mickey talk. And then I would have had to then, and then Mickey would have been performing. All radio controlled, which is good and bad. If you're anywhere near an airport, it's very bad because the heads go crazy, but because of the crossing signals that are being transmitted to the servos. But anyway, it was too much. Disney thought they could ask the people who voice Mickey and Minnie if they would do it. And they were like, oh, no, we don't want to do that. No. Let her do it, which is fine. But they again took Talking Mickey Mouse and put him on the shelf and waited. And I lost track of the project, actually. And then Mickey showed up after the pandemic leading the parade in front of the trams are coming back to Disneyland. And that was probably one of the first times I saw it. I may have seen it in a parade, because in a parade, you, of course, have an environment where all of the power can be brought to Mickey Mouse. But the bottom line was technology had caught up. And now Mickey now walks around and talks to people in some situations. You'll notice if you've been to Disneyland, and I cannot speak for Walt Disney World, but you'll notice that he doesn't take over the Mickeys who don't talk, whose lips don't move, because it was very scary for kids. Kids saw Mickey talking, and it was like, well, that's not Mickey. Do you know what I mean? They were used to the ones that, you know, and then talking and hugging, and you know what it's like when you see these characters. So Disney is kind of testing where they can put Talking Mickey Mouse, but they could easily put Talking Mickey Mouse on Disney Plus, no problem. They can put him in a parade, no problem. They can put him in any videos or advertising that they have, no problem. And now it's like a chip or something that is pre-programmed, plugs in, and the performer while Mickey talks. Again, technology catching up. So that's what I think Disneyland needs to be, and that's what I think Walt can help Disney people to realize the importance of why Disneyland needs to stay Disneyland, because once you erase Walt's footsteps, you can't get them back. And I think there's people who are in charge of Disneyland that are terrified that you won't come. But I know you youngsters out there, and youngsters, I mean 30s, 20s, and even younger, you guys are checking out the vinyl, which in my day was called a record, a record album. You like it because of the art. You like it because the disc can sometimes come in a different color. You like it because you have the action of putting the needle to the track and listening to the pop. Some of you are obsessed with VHS. When we had VHS, we weren't obsessed with VHS, but you are. The Walkman, which my husband says Guardian of the Galaxy is responsible for, but I don't think so. I think you guys like the Walkman. You guys love the original one that Apple made that has 148 whatever, so you can put your songs on it. You're buying them off of eBay faster than they can be made. People are actually making the original Walkman where you put what's called a cassette in the thing, and you guys are just getting so excited about the actions and the feeling and the tactile, and you love it. So I know you love the retro. I've watched you dress retro. I've watched you experience the music. Many of you listen to the 80s music and the 90s music. Why? Because it has a rhythm. And I'm not saying all of you, but many people go to the music that I grew up with. And some of you go as far as the 50s when I was born. So my point is you love this stuff. I think Disney will be just fine. And let me put it in perspective for you again with the Disney figure. Set to debut, rumored on July 17th, the birthday party. So if you're going, prepare, keep an eye, because if you want to see it on that day, it may be a virtual queue. We don't know how they're going to work it out because the lines to get in there could be very off-putting for all the other stuff you want to do for the birthday. So I'm sure they're going to figure out a way to make it as efficient as possible. But if you get a chance to see it, check it out. Even if you want the right to say you didn't like it, check it out. Just do yourself a favor and warrant your opinion. Protect your opinion. And but I really believe that this park would be wonderful if it simply embraced the fact that it's where Walt walked. It's the only place you can see Walton walk footsteps. It's the only place you can see the trains and learn about how the train evolved. The first train Walt did in his park, he rented to his own park. The realm of the dinosaurs, which is still there and was there when I was a kid. Many people ride to show their children what it was like back then. So I see it and I feel it and I taste it. As an Imagineer, I like to walk around and see people and what they enjoy. They love the Jungle Cruise. And speaking of the Jungle Cruise, they added the piranha fish. Now, I'm not real cool with the monkeys and the apes, and I'm not even going to go there. But I still love the fact, I think the piranha fish being added is spectacular. I absolutely love it. Forgive me. My watch is zapping me, and I'm like, stop it. But I think if they took each attraction and upped the technology and looked at the plans from the time that those attractions were created for Disneyland, they could actually see where they could add things, progress, as Walt has said. Disneyland will be ever changing. It'll never be finished. He thought that, but he had no idea there were going to be other parks, and he passed away before he could really envision the other parks. But here is why Disneyland is so important, because it's where Walt walked, and I really believe this should be preserved tenaciously. So let's talk about why. Are you someone out there who was maybe a geeky kid, an unusual kid, a different kid? This is why I'm asking it. I was, and hello, I was. Not good at sports, not interested in sports, loved movies, art, always creating, not the popular kid, maybe wanted to fit in. I personally didn't really want to fit in with that crowd. But let's say you did. You wanted to fit in with that crowd. You wanted to not be different. I mean, it turns out to be one of the biggest stories in movies today is someone who wants to be like everybody else so that they don't have to be different. And at the time when I was little, I wanted to not have my hair go straight up. It did. I wanted to just have hair like other people so I wouldn't be bullied or harassed or whatever it was. But the fact of the matter is the details in the difference, and being different is the unique thing. Once you embrace who you are and you be yourself, life changes for you, because that is a very special thing about you, is your difference. Every single one of you. Your difference, your unique difference is what is celebrated, is God's wish for you, right? So in my case, I was always telling people I was just like them. And they would say, no, you're not. And I'd say, yeah, I am. And they'd say, no, you're not. Well, I was taking an acting class. And when I would audition, the word got back to my agent that I was over the top. I thought this was because of my theater acting. I was big. I was, oh, what, ho, and what do you mean by that? That kind of big acting instead of, what do you mean by that? This is what I thought. But I didn't remember myself at auditions being big. But if they said I was too big for the camera, then I kept toning it down until one woman who was auditioning me for a role called my agent and said, it's like she's dead. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't say anything. She just doesn't move. She's acting like, what is that about? So my agent told me I didn't know what to do. So I went to my acting coach, and my acting coach says, get over it, Terry. When you walk into a room, sweetheart, you're already over the top. So listen to that, guys. Listen to that very carefully. When you walk into the room without saying a word, you're already over the top. So you have two choices. Keep saying you're not like that, or embrace it. Now, if you've seen me around, you know I've embraced it. With my long dreadlocks, with my skull coat, with my smile, and I've embraced who I am, which is a mixed woman who is very grateful for all that I've done and all that I will do, and all of the friends like you out there in the world who take the time to say hello to me. I'm grateful for all of it. Well, this is Disneyland. Disneyland has got to stop trying to be the other parks. It's not like any other park in the world. It's Disneyland. And some of you may say, well, that's a pretty arrogant statement, but it's really not. It's really not. It's where Walt built it, visioned it, looked at it, studied it, polished it, finagled it, watched from his apartment every day to make sure that people were smiling when they came in. And if they weren't, he tweaked it. He was always a part of Disneyland, and he was never, unfortunately, a part of the other parks. So if you want to change things to be an amusement park, like putting the rocket ships on the ground, let's fix that, Tomorrowland, and put them back up. Then you can. Walt Disney World is going to get rid of their Rivers of America. Try to do that at Disneyland and will hurt you. I'm not threatening. This is the way people react. They were thinking about filling in the submarines, and people went mad here at Disneyland. Are you crazy? They talked about changing the Rivers of America when they changed the train, and maybe it would be gone. They didn't know. People who love Disneyland weren't told about the concept art. They were freaking out. What do you mean you're going to do that? What do you mean you're going to? It wasn't that they didn't want change. They just wanted Walt Disney to be a part of it, like he is. It's so important to be who you are. It's so important to embrace that. And I really believe Disneyland needs to do the same. And so perhaps, and I'm hoping this is so, and I don't know when I'm going to get to see this figure, but I'm hoping soon. I would like to see it. I'm going to be there for the birthday, but I just don't think that I'm going to be able to get in. I think you got to commit to the line for most of the day. It may surprise me because it is a theater. So it's not like you have to ride Rise of the Resistance where the space is limited. The space is limited, but not quite so limited. So maybe it'll move smoothly. Things are different than they were, and for the better. But I realized that many of you who were not around in the 50s and 60s for Disneyland, that your questions of me have been, was there really a bra store on Main Street? Yes, there was, and I walked right in it with my mother. My mother walked into the Wizard of Bras, that's what it was called, because she wanted to confirm there actually was a bra store that sold bras on Main Street. True story. Yes, there was, guys, there was. I went to Disneyland when I was 4, which would make it 1950. I was born in 57, 4 years later, so 61. My math is terrible. But when I was 4, it was my first time at Disneyland. And it was hard for my parents to afford it then, so we only went once or twice a year. So it was a synchronize your watches and what are you going to do type time. But when I was at the last Disneyana, that was the biggest question people asked me was, what was it like when Walt was alive to be at Disneyland? Many could see Walt. I don't think I ever had a Walt sighting. And I definitely never had the pleasure of an interaction, but you saw and you felt all of his magic all the way around, and you still do today. So to the people who created Disneyland and for the people who continue to maintain Disneyland, the tool you need is not an eraser. The tool you need is some vellum and then adjust it so that it can be more fun. Case in point, Tony Baxter, the walk through the castle. The castle at Disneyland, you can do a walk through and it has storybooks and it has rooms you can look at and they're wonderful. But it wasn't always like that. It was a lot simpler and a lot more cardboard, is the word I come up with. But Tony Baxter, years later, went up there, went through a wall because he had seen some plans and said, huh. And when he saw those, he decided to renovate it. And now it is what we love today. So there's examples already of how technology can change the park for the better, but still keep it Disneyland. If you want to erase your rivers of America, if you want to get rid of your riverboat, if you want to get rid of whatever you want to get rid of, it's fine if you're not in Disneyland. The other parks, I say do what you want because you're not erasing Walt. But in this case, this figure could help reestablish who is the reason. Why do we have these parks? 2 words, Walt Disney and Walt Disney's team, because of Walt Disney's vision. If you disagree, feel free to share with me. But if you're someone who's never been to Disneyland, please walk, please study, please realize, take the time. Look at the plants, every flower, every tree, every decoration is meticulously created for you. Every cast member is there for you to have a good experience, and everyone works hard to give you the Disneyland experience. I adore the other parks, and my park that I helped build as an Imagineer is Paris. I did the dragon underneath the castle, and the castle experience underneath the dragon's lair, underneath the castle experience. That's Terry Imagineer and Big Thunder in Paris. But I know that the park at Disneyland Park, is special because Walt walked there. Walt is still there. You can see the technology and you can feel how Walt worked with people like Bob Gurr to create the fire truck, to create the yellow car, to create the monorail, to create the Matterhorn, to create the doom buggies, to create the etc., etc., etc. Okay? So I say we preserve it. We don't leave it as a rusty, dying park. We say we're going to use technology to make it what it is, but work the way he really would have wanted it if he had had the technology. After all, Bob Gurr said, that Matterhorn could have been cooler, and we all love the Matterhorn, even if it does bruise us when we ride it. We all love the Matterhorn, but if Bob Gurr says if he had a computer, he might make it even more fun, how about we let him? You know what I mean? So with that, my friends, that's the end of my little broadcast and my little statement about the figure that's going to be debuting, most likely, rumored July 17th. So if you want to, you're curious about it, go see it. And I believe it's the right step. It's a good step in the direction for helping you all remember who made these parks possible. Because even in the movies, they're calling it Disney Company, not Walt Disney Pictures, which drives me. Just so you know. Okay? When you create something and you are dedicated to it, like Walt was, don't think his journey was easy, because it was not. It was not easy. He worked hard. And if you can see that Bob Gurr documentary, please do, because he talks about the evolution of the Utopia car and what that went through. All of the things that you can't really share and talk about. And for those of you, just for my fans, bring back the People Mover, because some of us just like to cruise around the park at a slow pace and wave to the people below. So bring it back, guys. Florida has a People Mover. But again, I think the one that was designed at Disneyland was more fun for me. Okay? All right, guys, do something nice for someone else. It'll make you feel a whole lot better. Happy 4th of July. I hope you have a good one. Be American. Be good to each other. Sit with your family and be thankful that you're all together. Whatever you do, whether it's hot dogs, hamburgers, fireworks, whatever, just look at each other and say to them, I love you because you're who you are. And now I look at you and I say, I love you for who you are. Hugs and kisses, everyone. I will see you next time. Be well, be safe, and be good to each other. All right, guys, we'll see you later.